Hello, and thank you for joining me for this very important video on the difference between closing costs and closing expenses. And I'll bet everybody watching this has probably heard the term closing costs. You may have even had some people mention to you, hey, be sure that you're not going to overpay for closing costs, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. But what people don't realize is that there's actually 4 closing expenses, and only one of those 4 are closing costs. Now, there's 3 other items, very important items, that go into closing expenses. So the second one is called prepaids. Prepaids just control 2 things: interest from the day of closing to the end of the month, and number 2 is going to be your first year's homeowner's insurance. Yes, you got to get homeowner's insurance, and yes, the first year's premium is paid at closing. That makes it a prepaid item, so 2 prepaid items. Now, next you've got escrows. Most everybody today carries an escrow account. Some people don't. If you're putting down a huge amount of money, you may elect not to have an escrow account, but that's seldom. Most people, even me, we carry an escrow account. Well, in order to get the escrow account started, there's a certain amount of money we've got to put aside for property taxes and homeowners insurance that the mortgage company is going to set aside. It's referred to as escrows, and that is a closing expense. And then there's another one that people forget about. If you're buying into a planned unit development, there may be HOA fees. If you're buying a condominium or if you're buying a townhome, you can be assured there's probably going to be some type of homeowners association or condominium association dues. Sometimes they've got an administrative fee. Sometimes they have a transfer fee. Sometimes they have an initiation fee. And there's also a prorated portion. So you've got 4 closing expenses: closing costs, which I'll talk about in a minute, prepaids, escrows, and HOA. So it's not just closing costs. And bear in mind, prepaids, escrows, and HOA, they are going to be identical. No matter what lender you ultimately choose, those are going to be exactly the same on everybody because there's no change in that. Now, closing costs. Closing costs are the biggest of the 4 items. But what does it entail? There's some lender fees, which the lender will disclose to you. If you're buying in the state of Georgia, there's going to be attorney's fees. You're in Florida, there may not be attorney's fees, but there's title company settlement charges. You're going to have lenders and owners title insurance. Owners is optional, lenders is required. All that will be disclosed to you by your lender, or should be anyway. There's going to be title search, title examination. You're going to have to get an appraisal, get a credit report. There's all kinds of those things that roll into what we call closing costs. But again, bear in mind, closing costs are one of the 4. Closing costs, prepaids, escrows, HOA. Now, you may want more details on that. I would encourage you, pick up the phone, call a professional lender, or reach out to me. I'll be glad to answer questions, whether I'm doing your loan or not. I want to help you out. Very important, 4 items: closing expenses versus closing costs. Don't miss. One of the upcoming videos is going to specifically talk about who can pay those closing expenses on your behalf, because you're not required to pay them all. Somebody's got to pay them. May not always have to be you. Thank you.